and we can explode from there. Sound good?
Down to explode.
Ready to explode? All right.
Mode to explode.
Ready for explosion. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is an off-season pod, guys. This is where the rubber hits the road. We've been weightlifting. We've been doing drills. We're getting lean and mean. I think we're getting into form, ready for a summer of heat. I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Connor.
Jay.
All right, guys. So we're done with spring practice. We're done with the spring portal as far as any more entries. Tell me how much success the Sooners have had in this portal. Give me a rating, Jay.
Rating?
Yeah.
Numerical?
Yeah.
I give it a 9.
9 out of
Wow.
10.
I give it a 9 out of 10. Here's why.
With no great offensive line coming in, you give it a 9.
Yeah, but here's the deal. In the portal in general, for the 24 season, we added 7 to 8 starters at positions. There's a chance our right guard, center, and left guard are all portal. Your starting slot receiver, your starting tight end, maybe both starting defensive tackles. And is there anybody else I'm missing? Maybe a starting corner. You don't know if
That's true.
The San Diego State kid can win a job over Woody or somebody. But that's a lot of starters, quote, to add to the portal.
I don't disagree with it at all. I think that's absolutely...
Yeah, you could say there's not...
Even if the O-line guys turn out to be just middle of the road, that's why I don't think you can give it a 9.
I would agree with Lucas on that. I was more geared towards like a 7.
You're saying because they might not?
But because I think
I don't think they are.
I don't
think they are the caliber
players.
that we. I don't think they're the caliber that we would necessarily prefer. So you look at someone, and we'll dive into him in a minute. But like Dominic Williams on the defensive side, we didn't land someone remotely close to that on the offensive line, where we absolutely needed that depth.
I think if you did, though, that'd be a clear
Unless
10.
you count...
And I would agree. But I think the margin is really, really, really,
So you're
really
giving it,
big.
what, an 8 or a 7?
I would say, let's just split it and say 7.5.
Okay.
That's
me...
why I'm in agreement with Connor. Just because
I don't know.
even if we did bring in 3 new starters on the offensive line, in past years, none of those players see the
And
field.
I contextualize it in a sense
what
in
about-
the SEC, right?
But the
Like, we need
impactfulness,
offensive
though.
line in
the
the SEC.
impactfulness of adding starters.
Right.
Maybe they're not what you want as a starter. If they didn't come, where are we at?
And
That's fair.
How much better do you think we're ever going to be in the portal? Do you think we'll ever have a class as good as this?
I would hope so.
I doubt it. I don't think there'll be that many people to get. And
I
we
don't
won't
know,
have
but
that
that-
many. We won't have that many positions to
Yeah, that's the
fill.
thing.
Just
Do
from
you
the
want it
top
to be
two.
this good?
Right.
Going
Probably
forward.
not.
I don't know if you want it to be this good
No,
because it
'cause you don't want the
expresses,
need.
it expresses need.
Yeah. To
But
me,
just from Deion Burks and
Deion
Dominic
Burks is-
Williams,
Deion
and Dominic
Burks is
Williams,
obviously
you're talking
huge.
about 2 potential
game changers.
All-American style.
I can agree
players.
with that.
That in itself
that gets you
is massive.
towards the 9 real
Well,
fast.
and I mean, you said it a minute ago, and he's not that caliber, at least at face value, but Bauer Sharp looks like he's going to be a dude.
At least for us,
For
a
us,
tight
it
end
looks
that-
like he's going to be a tight end who can actually go make plays down the field and isn't someone who's a body, right? So, I mean, you add critical talent at a position where you had none last year. And no offense to Stogner and whoever else was out there, but you needed someone at tight end. You went and you found someone. So, I mean, I think you added some really key impact players. I do think that you were missing a key piece to put this over the top on the
to
offensive
make it a
line.
9 would require what, in your estimation?
a tackle.
If we would have gotten
a tackle.
better caliber, like 2 better caliber offensive linemen
Wow.
than what we got, it would be a 9.
What would it take to be a 10?
Quarterback. But I mean, not that you need one, but like that.
Well, I mean, I
Casey.
don't know what
You
it
got Casey
takes to
Thompson.
become a 10. If you got, I mean, you're talking, I could see you maybe saying it's a 7.5 or an 8, and it needs to be a 1 offensive tackle to get there, but 2? That's just great.
I wouldn't say 2. I would say 1, and it's because of what we lost at that position as well. I mean, there's a big hole.
You
to
might
fill.
not be able to become a 10 unless you are just in dire straits.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to be a 10.
ever. Yeah.
Because if you're a 10, it's like you're completely reloading a roster that
Right.
wasn't there before, and then you run into the problem.
And that 10 might still be a 7-5 season, because you're not going to get 22 players that are that good.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, that's like a weird
Yeah,
bargain.
It's an interesting discussion, because I don't necessarily know that if you are a 10 out of 10 of the portal, it's a bad thing. I know you want to have high school recruits and develop your own players, but there is a world where a team could get 10 dudes that are dudes.
You could get the Bolitnikoff winner that was
Yeah.
a sophomore. You know, like Jordan Addison goes to USC.
Right.
They get Caleb Williams USC. If they'd have got, 4 more legit All-American starters, that's a 10.
Caleb Williams
on
and
the-
Jordan Addison alone are pushing. You're pushing a 10.
You think?
Not
I
to
don't
me.
know.
You got
Not-
a Heisman. You have a Heisman Trophy winner and a Bolitnikoff Award winner, coming in the
pretty
same
high.
in the same portal.
That's pretty. Yeah, that I
Maybe
mean,
you're looking
that's
8
pretty
to
high.
10
But you
range.
weren't a complete package, because
True.
they had big needs on defense
Yeah.
and they didn't get anything.
Well,
Or
you
they
also
got
had
the
the
kid
you also
from
had
LSU.
the you had the running back. You had the Oregon running back that same season too.
All right, for argument's sake,
We
for
should
our
put
team.
this to a poll on Twitter as well.
Okay,
I think
so-
this is a good poll.
So a right guard,
Out of 10.
projected right guard starter, Fabichi Nwewu. Okay, he looked like our best offensive lineman on the team.
Out of Washington, right?
No, he's the one from North Texas.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so
Who everybody's poo-pooing because he's from North Texas.
right, but he looked like our best offensive lineman. Whether you can argue that's good or bad, either way.
Bad to me.
But then you've got, especially due to injury, going out and getting Branson Hickman from SMU, who is solid. He's not a day one draft pick or even a day two.
Center, right?
But he's got like 36 starts, and
it's gonna be your
he's
Ty,
held his own.
your Ty Darlington type
He
of
had,
guy.
he had 1,000
Veteran.
snaps last year and allowed like 1 sack or something like that. So he's just solid player. And then probably at left guard is going to be Garen Hatchett, who's the guy from Washington. He started the first 5 or 6 games on an offensive line that went on to win the Joe Moore Award.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think any of those 3 guys,
They're not slouches.
they're not.
They didn't win the Joe Moore Award, but
Washington did.
Michigan did.
Washington did.
Michigan did.
Washington did.
We'll look it up while we switch.
I remember explicitly commenting on how small Washington's offensive line looked in the playoff games.
He is
which
a
was
small
amazing
guard.
because they won the more.
They did not.
Yep, I think they did.
If someone grab the encyclopedia and let's look this up.
We'll have to wait till later.
My Britannica.
Well, I tell you who is a 10, it sounds like, is Dominic
I stand
Williams.
corrected.
It was Washington.
It was Washington. Michigan's
So,
offensive line looked really good.
Dominic Wilkins.
Dominic Wilkins?
Wilkins?
Williams.
He's going to dunk all over the place.
It's Demonic Wilkins.
Demonic
Demonic
Williams. I can't even say it. Dominic Williams. D. Williams. What's his nickname? D Money. I'm giving it to him. How much does he help this Sooners defense? What does it mean for what was already going to be a very stout and improved defense?
You've got a 3 deep across the board.
Does it make them elite? Does it help make that jump that Venables has always seen in his 3rd year?
If you don't have a top 20 defense, and I'm tempted to even say top 10,
I am too.
with the personnel that we have on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Lucas is smiling over here because he's the realist. But I'm serious. I mean, look at the depth on that side of the ball. The depth alone, plus the talent. I mean, I think the talent is there as well. Danny Stutzman comes back. Billy Bowman's back. You've developed Peyton Bowen for a full year. You have experience on the interior line. You have experience on the ends. You have Woody Washington and Gentry Williams as your corners. You have legitimate veteran experience.
That's if Woody
plus depth.
If
And
Woody,
Woody may not
keeps
even get on the
going,
field.
win the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that it frees up. We were talking about it on the walk back from dinner. It frees up Stutzman. It frees up everybody to do whatever they want to do, and run a 3-man line, run a 4-down
Please
line.
don't.
I don't think it matters because you're going to have a 4th guy who's running free.
Well, and I think what it does,
You can't call it running free when there's 5 offensive linemen and you've got 3 defensive linemen out there. You put a fourth
No, it's
person
running
coming
free.
from behind.
It's
Well, I
running
think
free
even
because he
three
gets
down
to
linemen,
do where he wants to. He gets to be wherever he wants to be.
I think three
He
down
doesn't mind
linemen,
that.
you bring a fourth, but
Yeah.
it's just a different kind of player. It's not a true defensive end. It's a
It's a PJ. It's a
Yeah,
it's a
Stutzman.
stand-up outside linebacker. It's a nickel guy. It's a fourth guy.
And he's coming from the outside. He's coming from the inside.
It's
He's
a
coming.
McCullough.
But
He's
you have
doing something
but
totally
the thing-
different.
you have the option to do kind of whatever you want
Right.
on that side.
Which
of
is
the ball,
clearly
right?
what they wanted in the past 2 years, but weren't able to do very clearly. They
It
line
allows
up
you
with
to, it
three
allows
guys.
you to game plan a lot better.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you were going to, quote, build a defense, right? Just architect a defense out of thin air. We have exactly what you want to start with. You have a dominant defensive tackle, a dominant middle linebacker, and a dominant safety. The middle of your defense
Yeah.
is absolutely
and
loaded.
and veteran
Yeah.
across the board. Now, not veteran in this system, but All-American, great pedigree.
And I think, to your point, whether you run a 3-man or a 4-man, Williams demands 2 blockers.
Right.
So, they might tinker with it, whether it's, they'll see, he's primarily played a one-gap scheme under TCU, where they wanted him to take on blockers and take 2 guys for sure to free up others. But apparently he's more explosive than that. I don't want to necessarily say he was underutilized, but I think they're excited to see his explosiveness when he has a 2-gap.
Right.
Well,
scheme.
yeah, and
But-
to your point, like, sorry, go ahead and finish.
No, but let's just say, so if every play he needs 2 guys, right? Or they scheme where this guy is at,
Right.
If you're running a 4-man front and it's 4v5 and he takes 2,
Two.
you've got to like your odds.
That's 3 against
of
3.
3 on 3.
Yeah, 3 1-on-1s,
Someone
yeah.
needs to win their battle,
their battle.
and it's over, right?
on any passing
That's the
down.
beauty of it.
And if they try to run up the middle, that's tough. That's really tough.
Well, and like you said, it's not like we're and Steve, kind of back to one of your original points, is with the complexity that comes along with this defense. I'm glad that the big name that we got is on the defensive line, where I think a lot of that complexity is not necessarily in play, where he's having to really learn a lot of different assignments and stuff as a linebacker would have to.
Yeah, the
or as a
complexity's not
DB.
there.
He's just going to get in the ball.
Yeah.
Or he's going
Right.
and making tackles.
You're not dropping into coverage.
So
You're not doing
his
any-
curve
yeah.
should be a lot less steep than
Yeah.
if we were bringing in, the biggest linebacker in the portal or the biggest
Right.
safety in the
Safety,
portal
yeah.
or something like
And
that.
someone we
So-
haven't even talked about is the Louisville defensive tackle transfer, Jermaine Lele. It's another very experienced player. The kind of player that's, I don't know what his draft stock looks like, but he's in his 6th year of playing football. So you can look at that as good or bad. I look at it as good just because he should know everything. He's got a man's body by now, and he for the same reasons he'll be able to plug and play. And you're talking about adding someone like him allows you to have a third string potentially of
Jackson,
Jaden
Stone.
Jackson and Stone.
Yeah.
And for
fresh
what
legs.
we're used to say that Jaden Jackson and David Stone is your third rotation in the interior defensive line
Yeah.
is something we just
Oh.
it's been 15 years since we said that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are perennial starters under a Grinch defense, and not
too
very
big to
productive.
play for Grinch. You wouldn't even recruit
That's
him.
probably true. Yeah.
And having a guy like Downs with all of his experience.
Right on the
I
outside.
mean, he looked great in the spring game. He really came on at the last 3 or 4 games of the season
Yep.
last year. That's one defensive end's position, first stringer, you don't have to worry about.
Yep.
Because he knows what he's doing, and he's continually gotten better since he's been here.
I do wonder about the other end position. I mean, R. Mason Thomas has been riddled with injuries since he's been here, but apparently is one of the most athletic, most talented people on the team. You have PJ Adebawore, who, for all intents and purposes, is supposed to be a freak. So you see a little bit
What
of a position
great
battle
year
there.
for him to become a freak.
Yep, and you see, you have Trace Ford coming back.
Yeah, he's going to be another guy. Valuable minutes, a lot of experience.
Yep.
Give you fresh legs on a down that you
You
can
got
just give a guy a
You got
rest.
the
and
Ohio
talk to
kid
him.
too. The
Caden
Miami,
Bullard.
Yep, the
Yep.
Miami Ohio kid coming in as well. So I mean, again, a legit
They got their
three
guys.
deep.
I would think the run defense should be very, very stout.
Oh, absolutely. And they were pretty good against the run through most of the season last year.
And I think stock up or stock down on the defensive line going into this year relative to last year. I would say stock
Oh,
up.
it's massively up.
Way stock up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way stock up. And that'll
I think that
translate
probably
into
goes across the
everything
board
else.
on
Yeah.
defense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everybody else gets
especially
help.
because literally everyone's back. So there's a natural progression of growth in the system and in maturity and in your body and everything else. So
And knowing the system. Just knowing and being comfortable and them being able to you've got to think there's an acceleration in the training protocol from spring into summer of here's what we want to do, and really into the fall camp where you're saying, all right, we don't have to work on the basics. We have got that established. We're going to take it to the next level. And I mean, we honestly, in year one, you never got to see them implement anything they wanted
Now,
to do.
what about this mysterious defensive coordinator that we've added that we still haven't seen?
He's an AI.
Is he? Are all the calls and terminology going to be the same? Even though I mean, I don't know that Ted Roof had his own terminology, or if it was all Brent Venables.
It's all Brent's, and I think
So-
that's probably
so
exactly
everything
why
Zach Alley brings in
I
will
think
be
it's
the same.
exactly why Alley's here is because for everything
Same
we've
terminology.
heard, is Zach Alley is the Brent Venables mini me who is
Yeah.
cut from that same cloth, and I think Venables wants someone who's going to bring that same terminology and mindset, so that I think it's a level of trust.
I mean, that helps
Well,
even
yeah.
more with the return. All those guys returning.
Absolutely.
Is literally they're not having to learn anything new.
I don't think
And
Brent
he's
Venables
not-
is going to let anything change.
Whereas
He's
the
not gonna-
offense
I don't think
is.
Brent Venables will let anything change, and I think that's why he was never going to hire someone who was, no matter how good he was never going to hire Bill Belichick to be the defensive coordinator. He was never going to hire someone who would come in and try to change things. He wants to have a protege who will learn under him and just basically be a younger version of him
Yeah,
to do
type
what
A
he
it,
wants
for
to
sure.
do. I think if I'm Brent Venables, I'm thinking down the road, the competitive threat is, can I keep him around and keep him happy long enough to really get what I want out of him before he naturally makes the next jump? You don't want him to make a jump probably in 2 or 3 years. You want him to be around for multiple seasons, and maybe after a 5th year is really strong consideration that he goes somewhere else to do. But it'd be head coach, and you know, he could be like Brent Venables, who only left under weird circumstances to be a DC, not to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And only came back to this job. He never took another head coaching job until this one because it was the right one. So, if it all works out, he could be around a long time.
I am bummed we haven't talked to him though, or heard from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is strange.
I'd like to see that. Maybe they know what they're doing, and it's going to be like, wow, the most biggest splash moment when he actually is talking in the fall.
Not to backtrack too far, but as far as we're talking about the portal, I don't know that you get Dominic Williams if you don't retain a Stutzman and a Billy Bowman.
Oh, probably
So it's kind of a domino effect.
Oh, absolutely.
We didn't lose them to the draft. It's not necessarily a portal
Right.
thing, but
Right.
I don't know that you
No, I
can
agree.
talk someone like him into coming, because I think you can easily show him his importance and how he elevates
Yeah.
what we already have.
Yes,
And it's
all
what we
the-
were, quote, missing.
It's the peripheral. It's the stuff that's like, okay, we're all coming to the table with offers. LSU's got a big offer. Texas got a big offer. OU's got a big offer. At some point, money is money, and it's all the same. If it's a little different, it's just a little different. And then it's like, what are the intangibles? What are you surrounding me with? Show me, prove to me that you can put me in a position to succeed. And the resume can't be beat. Brent Venables' resume cannot be beat against Texas or LSU. And when you say, and we have the key ingredients, the talent around you to help you be the best player you can be, then that makes it easy. Because we all know that defensive tackles don't get the limelight. They're not the guys that get it's a real knowledgeable football fan who really sees it. I mean, think about Tommy Harris. He went through down after down that only the real occasionally, obviously, he'd make tremendous plays. Gerald McCoy the same way. But most of the time he was just doing his job, which was just eating up a defense, taking up 2 offensive people to stop him, allowing everybody else around him on the field to make sensational plays. And I
Yeah.
think he knows that going in. And I'm sure his family and his agent probably knows that too, saying, hey, this is great. We want the money, but in college, we've got to get you to the next level, and you've got to shine, and you're going to shine in this system and not be worn down too, because it's not just those guys who are on the field with you. It's who can take your place and come in for valuable minutes, and we're not going to wear him down. That's why he's not ever going to go to a place where, like, that's probably what TCU was. They're probably saying, like,
You're the guy.
You're the
You
guy.
can't take him off the field.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't take him off the field.
You might slide him over to bring in another D tackle, but he's still
He's
on the
still
field.
on the field, and that's wear and tear on the body.
Well,
They're
and like,
way less effective after, on a
Yes.
7-play drive or
Exactly.
9-play drive.
yeah.
Exactly.
You can't
When
come
you
off the
really
field.
need him, it's like, it's,
Right.
it's great at the 50-yard line. Right, they're at the 15. We really need you now.
And I really think, Jay, to your point, is I think the butterfly effect of Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman staying, I think it's going to be tremendous in the coming years because it sets this precedent for guys like a Kobe McKenzie, who's never been a guy, but has stuck it out for 2 years and is probably going to be a backup in his third year to stick around. It speaks volumes to a lot of the guys beneath to say there's a process here, and if we follow it, we're going to get our chance. Just like Venables did at Clemson with the likes of Simmons and all those guys who stuck around for extra years because they wanted to keep playing football for Brent Venables and because Brent Venables was making them better football players to progress their career in
Yeah,
the
I
NFL.
can't remember their names. Maybe Dexter Lawrence and somebody else.
They were
But
always so old, though.
They were already projected first-round
Yeah.
draft picks, and they're like, no, we're coming.
Yeah, we're coming back. And it wasn't even a question. Whereas
And there was no NIL there.
Yeah.
And
Well,
now there is.
that we know of.
Yeah, right.
And now there is.
Good
So
point.
literally, it's like they're foregoing a good payday to go to the NFL early then when they weren't getting it in school. And now you can offer, you're going to get to stay.
Substantial
You're going to
dollars.
make
yeah,
plenty,
there's an incentive
plenty of
as well
money
on top
now.
of it, right?
No, I think so, and that's a huge tool for the guys who are going to use it right. So what else do we need? We're hinting around about this when we talk about the ratings and all that. We know that we're not complete. What else would it be nice to see us attain? Not that there's a guy out there to get, but in terms of what we lack in to become a complete team that can compete all the way for championships, what do we lack coming into 24?
A fullback.
Okay.
A kicker.
Oh, yeah. Punter. Punting was so bad in the spring game.
But one of the punters is bad. The other punter's good.
I mean, there was some 42-yarders in there, but there wasn't anything touching 50, I don't think.
But I can't remember his name. One of the punters is very serviceable.
Nzinga.
Yeah, Nzinga. Yeah, he's very serviceable.
He
The
was
guy
our
who's
punter
built
last
like a
year. He was
tight
our
end
punter
is
last
good.
year, and he actually turned a corner in the back half of the season
Yeah.
and actually started booting the ball.
He's
pretty well.
serviceable. He's what we need.
Yeah, he's not.
I'm not worried about that as much as I am kicker. I'm worried about, obviously, offensive line. We still need to see that come together. It's just amazing. Like you see, and Jay, you share stat after stat, the offensive linemen we put into the NFL and the success they have, why we can't turn that corner and be the perennial offensive line machine that it appears we are on the output
And all
side.
of those guys that are in the NFL all credit Beanbow.
Right.
And he goes to NFL
and
games.
the draft guys credit
they
Beanbow.
get on the field and take pictures because they'll be like two offensive linemen on this team and one offensive lineman on this team are playing each other. So Bill goes up there to the game and goes on the field after, and they're all like, "We love Bill" and all this stuff, but we still can't seem to get him out of high school. It's crazy.
It's Bill's bedside. It's got to be his bedside manner.
It has to be.
It's got to be clicking with the kids to get them in the door, and then once they're in the door, this is what it's about, and I'm going to make you a star.
Maybe he
Unless you're
scares them
Kenny
off.
Green.
I don't know, but it's like it's. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Bill should be able to walk into a room,
Yeah.
show a picture of each of the guys that's in the NFL with salaries next to each one of them and NFL rankings next to each
And
one of them.
trophies and all that. Yeah.
And there should be little else that needs to be said. And then when NIL comes up, you can bring someone in to talk about that.
Yep.
If Bill doesn't want to talk about that or deal with all that, that's
And we don't know
fine.
that. We're just saying like we
Right.
don't know.
But there should be no question around the resume that this man has built that he should not be bringing. And it's been a consistent issue
It's,
and there's
for the
multiple.
past decade.
it's a mystery.
There's
it's weird.
multiple video clips too where whether it's draft analysis guys on ESPN or NFL Network or the actual coaches
The coaches
themselves
that
when I
draft.
interview them,
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is Beanbo was his coach. We know what kind of guy we're getting, and this is why we took him this high. Like,
I think
that's all you have to show.
Beanbo may be more of a professional style offensive line coach as well. And there may just be some kids who aren't ready for that. I don't know. I mean,
It might also be the last vestige of the Lincoln Riley drag. And this is the last thing to work out of the system because he obviously had a lot of success throughout a career that spanned Lincoln Riley and really preceded him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this drag that comes in, and it's the last area we've devoted resources and effort. Maybe it's just that, and maybe we turn a corner in this coming year. I don't know.
I'll
It
tell you
could
what
be.
else it could be is you hear on Gabe and Teddy's pod, Gabe's a big fan of outside zone running or whatever, and Lebby didn't use that at all.
Right.
And he kept saying,
Yeah.
the personnel we have is absolutely perfect to run that style, and he just refuses to. That's BS, and none of us have liked Lebby,
Right.
me particularly, but
I thought you were a fan.
but maybe we see a change now of getting back to Bill being able to run the offensive blocking schemes that
so
he
maybe
likes.
it's not as much a
And
Lincoln
then-
Riley as both Lincoln Riley and
I'll even
Lebby.
add
Lebby.
to it. I'll even add to, there was a significant dip correlated with Benny Wiley.
yeah.
I don't think Benny Wiley
Yeah.
and Beanbo
You're
saw
right.
eye to eye at all.
You're right.
Yeah, he wasn't a
Because
Tybo instructor.
You're going to give me 285-pound offensive linemen, and you want me to blow people off the ball.
It's not
Well,
going to
it's not
happen.
gonna happen.
And it took a couple of seasons for that to work its way through the system, where the guys that had built the muscle were gone, and they were left with nothing but the Benny Wiley guys, and they just couldn't produce.
Yep.
That's a good point.
And it's a good correlation with draft picks at that stage, too.
All of it works
Losing
out
some
as
of
if
those.
we're going to be apologists for Beatonbow and why we haven't seen it, and all of that matches up, but we have to see something change, or you can't feel real positive about the future.
and that's why we keep talking about it, is because
it's a mystery.
it's a mystery, and it's also heading into this league. It's one of the most important units out there.
Well, any league, but
I mean,
Yeah, but especially in this one where
Supposedly,
you're just going to get
supposedly
bullied.
one of the very first hires that Kalen DeBoer tried to do was steal Beanbo to Alabama.
that tells you something.
I mean, there's the disconnect between high school recruiting per se and
Well, and
Bill's reputation. There's a weird disconnect in there
and
somewhere.
anytime you get a guy who we think is really knowledgeable and has a lot of success, who wants to recruit this guy away, and this, I don't mean this to sound derogatory to him, but he's definitely not getting bought into a sexy, stylish dude who's pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. This is not the Lane Kiffin mystery of how does this guy keep getting jobs even though finally now he's seeing success. Bill Beatonbow is not sexy, like in any facet of it. Like, he's not the high, flashy guy. He's not the guy who everybody looks at and says, oh, he doesn't really deserve it. He is the anti-Deion Sanders. And so anytime anyone that we would respect as a coach is trying to recruit him away, it's because of the right reasons. It's not because of some glam that they're getting deceived by.
And this is what we've been waiting for, and maybe it's just going to take longer than we had hoped for. But whenever those worlds collide, and the universe recognizes, the high school universe recognizes what Beanbo is, now we're talking.
Well, and that's what I was about to say is all he needs this year is one of these grassroots guys that he has recruited and brought up through his system to go and perform on the field. And that's why Caden Green was such a big loss, is because I feel like Caden Green was that piece to build on and build around to say,
Because he was a huge high school
this
recruit.
is a huge recruit that we got. He started as a freshman. He's going to be our building block as a sophomore, and we're going to build this line around him.
I mean, Creed Humphrey was one of those
He
guys.
leads. Yeah, but again, that's in
he
that
wouldn't-
Lincoln
he wouldn't
Riley
really- I think
era
that's a
where
long
it's
time
and
ago.
again, I think Creed Humphrey was an anomaly, to be honest with you. was amazing the second he stepped on the field. Like, it was just one of the. But ever since then, I mean, so Eddie Pierre-Louis, you got to hope he can come in and perform. One of the biggest offensive line high school recruits in the nation this past season.
But he wasn't early.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
He
why
just got here.
that's probably why he won't see the field much this year, at least early on. So you got to hope someone like a Sexton or someone like that can go and perform above average and say, look at this. And Sexton would be someone who wasn't a highly touted guy. I mean, not necessarily a low star guy. He's a 4-star guy.
He's a 4-star guy,
but not like
he was a.
He's not a
he
Caden
was a
Green.
good recruit.
But if you can turn a Jacob Sexton into someone who can go and produce and be effective, then it's like, now watch what I do with Eddie Pierre-Louis. Watch what I do with these other guys that we're bringing in. And Jay, to your point, that's where you start seeing these worlds collide, where it's like, okay, oh yeah, that is Bill Bedenbow. That is the guy where we want to send these kids, because he develops to a point of success in the NFL. So
I think that's
I
a
don't
really
know.
good point.
I really
you
hope
bring
it
up
works
Caden
out.
Green, and I think that I want to echo a point that was made on the Scoop Pod. I think back to something that happened a long, long time ago in Oklahoma Lower, and there's been lots of examples of this, but one of the best, when Troy Aikman broke his ankle against Miami, my Uncle Mark said, that might be the best thing, sadly, but the best thing that could have happened for the Sooners team. And sure enough, Jamel Holloway comes in, and not only do we win the national championship that year, but it puts us back to where we really were in Wishbone football, and we were dominant for the next 2 seasons. The Caden Green incident might have been the blessing in disguise, the wake-up call that let us know we're going to have to play the NIL game completely different, that let Brent Venables and company know you've got to play it different or you're never going to succeed in this new environment. And it's been completely different since then.
It really has.
I don't think you get many of the portal guys you get, much less Dominic Williams, if you don't play the NIL game the right way. So it is as bitter as it is to lose him. It might have been the one thing that if you go back and you have the time machine and you prevent that from happening, it may prevent a lot of success.
You may think everything's
complete
okay
success, and everything
when
seems
it's not.
okay when it's not. It's very much not.
That's a good point.
I'm getting more and more positive on everything I'm seeing and hearing about NIL and OU and how we're using the portal. It's great to see that. I think we're on. I think we're as advanced as anybody using the portal. Of course, most all teams are. Obviously, you look at the teams that aren't using the portal, and we talked about success, and we ranked it, somewhere between a 7 and a 9. Some teams are just going to be zeros, like the service academies. They're not going to recruit anybody. You can't portal somebody into you're not going to get them a congressional letter of a nomination to become an Army cadet.
Well, there were 4 teams.
They're all service academies, right?
Well, there were 4 teams that didn't take anyone from the portal.
Well,
Does
one was Army.
the Coast Guard have a team?
No.
No.
Do the Marines have a team?
No.
They don't have a team.
What was it fourth?
Does Space Force have a team?
Not yet.
Oh, not
What
yet.
was the fourth?
Clemson.
Oh, that's right. Who's the coach at Clemson?
Dabo's too high and mighty.
So
Take a
Dabo has a
portal.
graveyard of all the teams that they beat, that they put headstones in, I think. And I'm wondering if he's dug his own grave. Because he does not seem like he has any interest
Well,
in
if he
being-
does, he'll just rise 3 days later.
And I'm not positive on this, but and these numbers could be slightly off. I'm thinking they lost 23 players.
No, I think I heard that too.
They might have only signed 17 and had none in the portal.
So the math doesn't really add up.
The math is not math.
Well, it adds up just to a really low
To a
number.
low
The math, yeah, the
Just gotta
math
give
is
walk-on scholarships.
not math. So it'll be interesting to see what that. He's the antithesis of Deion Sanders.
Well, when
right?
Brent came in,
Colorado and Clemson,
he
let's see.
essentially
Let's watch
said
them both.
that was going to be his philosophy, and he quickly realized
shifted
it's
real
impossible.
fast.
Right.
Well, I mean, with Dabo, you're basically bending a knee to Florida State in the ACC right now. And you're telling Florida State, the conference is
It's
yours.
Well, and not just
And maybe
that,
even Miami.
Mac Brown.
And Miami and
In
North Carolina,
North Carolina.
And anybody else who's using the transfer portal to get better.
Well, Clemson's not even trying to stay in the league. So if he thinks he's going to go 0 portal entries, and
we need to
head
get
to
him
the SEC.
into the SEC
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
Yeah, by all means.
He'll be the next South Carolina.
Right, he's supposed to be the next Alabama
Mississippi
coach,
State.
maybe, right?
Right.
Right?
There's no way
Imagine
they'll take
going
him.
to Bama and be like, no, we're no portal.
Oh,
guys, we're done.
You'll never get the interview. You're never going to
I
get
mean,
that
if he was
job.
the next Bama coach, it would have happened this year.
No,
Probably.
I think Dabo has pretty much solidified himself to either make a equivalent or lateral move to another position when he leaves Clemson. And I don't think he's going to leave Clemson.
I don't think he'll ever
to
leave
go-
Clemson.
I think he'll get fired before he leaves.
Yeah, no, I don't think he'll ever. I don't think he's going to take.
And that's what I
another
mean.
job.
I don't think he will.
I think he'll take his money and run
And the portal,
pout.
the portal could be his undoing unless stuff shifts and changes.
No, it
and
will.
it's
It will
It
be his
will
undoing.
be his undoing.
It will be.
Because
There's no
people
way
will
you can last in
because-
this league.
Well, because I'm going to say he's always been overrated. He's never been as good as the resume that he's put on the field. He's always played in a very much lesser league where he almost gets beat by nobodies and skirts by and only has one, maybe two tough games en route to a playoff.
Backed up
But-
by powerful defenses
but
that
now they've
Brent
added-
Like
Venables
Brent
ran.
Venables brought
Now
in.
they've added Stanford and Cal. So
Oh, that's
I
true.
meant
That's true.
SMU, I think. Did they
Actually,
go?
those
Who's
are the type
fourth
of
team?
teams that he would lose to. He'll go out to Stanford and get beat.
Did they order? Did they add a
It is a
14?
fourth team.
They didn't add Cal. It's Stanford and
It's-
SMU.
No, it's Stanford.
No,
Cal.
Stanford,
Cal, and SMU.
Just
Just
three?
three?
I think it's just 3.
Well, that league just got way tougher.
Yeah, right. Now, SMU might actually beat him. The SMU's going to be the one who
Yeah.
eats his lunch by
Yeah,
taking
could be.
portal and everything.
They got OU guys on their squad now.
Well, it's interesting to see the difference in approaches. And boy, you talk about the last guy who's trying to represent every bit of the old school of football, and he's going to fall on his face. It's not going to work.
What's extra insane about that is it's not that SEC teams are stealing portal players from other SEC teams. They're cherry picking elite players that are late bloomers from other leagues, from the ACC, from the Big 12, maybe even the Big 10. But I mean, look at Deion Burks. Deion Burks, obviously, coming out of high school,
Right.
I'm sure was a great player. But
What was he, a 3-star, though?
maybe.
Going to Purdue?
Right, maybe. He went to Purdue. Right?
So did Drew Brees.
And he had 50 catches last year for Purdue, right? He plays the same position as Drake Stoops. Drake Stoops had 90 catches
Yeah.
for us last year for almost 1,000 yards.
Well, go back in an interesting experiment would be as much, and I think very highly of Drake Stoops. But look at him catching the ball and put that ball in Burke's hands, and look how many yards after catch there's going to be.
Well, and
All that.
you're running completely different routes. You have completely different. I mean, your whole play style is different.
Well,
because
look
you
how
can
much
go-
it opens up the wideouts.
The wideouts, exactly.
The wideouts are going to love that, just like Stutzman's going to love a defensive tackle who can open him up. The wideouts, the running backs are going to love that.
I didn't have to
I mean,
worry
I
about
just
Drake
saw-
Stoops going down the field.
I mean, I just saw. I mean, to the original point, if you're in the biggest league there is, to not poach players that were underdeveloped or too small out of high school that grew and have now become a player, it's just nonsense.
You're missing
it's
everything.
Absolutely nonsense. Alabama today just got a commitment from a Wake Forest cornerback. Okay? That Wake Forest kid probably had slim to nothing coming out of high school. He grew, developed, put on weight, etc. Now Alabama's like, dude, let's go.
Well,
roll
it's
with
the
top.
guys who are playing money
And for
ball.
Clemson to not do that
Right.
With anyone.
is asinine.
With anyone.
With anyone, not just
Not anyone.
Anyone. That's obviously I'm going to take a moral stand against.
It is.
It's the guys who are playing Moneyball versus the guys who aren't.
Yep.
And you look at back to the original Moneyball and what the A's were doing and how they were recognizing that if you wait and see a guy in college, he's better than a guy out of high school. If you get a guy, you plug in players who can work, who are late bloomers or who have someone else has developed, and you realize, hey, he is now a 4-star plus for us. Where he wasn't on our radar before, but now he is, and we got a free look.
And now we can pay him a little money,
and now
and
we
he
pay
can
him all
come.
money
He can
and-
come
and
play
get
and do good
Every
for us.
single team has a weakness or a position group that's not as good as what
Right,
they're used
deficiency.
to or what
Right,
they
right.
want. And so to think that there were no players in the portal good enough
Well,
to improve your football team at Clemson.
And the processing, which naturally happened at Clemson because they lost something like 23 players. You're going to have guys who leave for one reason or another. The culturally didn't work out.
Yeah,
They didn't blossom.
One of them's going to be a starter at safety for Texas.
Yeah, and some of them are going to go to some lower. They just want to play.
Well, the top players aren't getting paid at Clemson
And
right
you
now. It sounds
missed.
like. It sounds like
I
the
can't
top.
imagine that they
Yeah,
are.
I mean, if you're not bringing in people in from the portal to pay, I imagine the NIL game's not very strong to keep guys around who are already there.
And the NIL game has to be organized. It's not enough to say, well, and I bet they did. I bet those guys did get paid before. They know they did. But to go from the black market to the open market is a very big difference. And you can't just keep playing that game because you're trying to slide money out under the table. And I say, what are you doing? No, he's offering me money across the top of the table, and it's 10x what you're trying to slide me.
Well,
this isn't going to work.
And your head coach is publicly acknowledging that he doesn't believe in the philosophy.
Right.
And if I hear my boss say, I don't want to pay my employees more money.
Right.
I'm going to go look for employment somewhere else.
Which I'm so glad that Brian Kelly for LSU had that come out today.
is rich.
Congrats to him.
That's
OU, Texas, LSU, we're all smiling.
Yes.
For him, not directly naming Dominic Williams
Yeah.
in the whole, but for those that don't know, head coach LSU did an interview and basically was trying to throw shade, saying we're not going to pay for players to come play here at LSU. And okay, you know what? Just blast that everywhere,
Yeah,
please.
right.
Just
The-
scream to the
wait a second.
hilltops.
A few years ago, in 2019, when they won the national title, didn't they get paid on the field
Yeah.
when it was illegal
That's right.
in cash
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
front of everyone? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Brian Kelly
But-
won't pay players, but he'll kill personnel during practice.
It is. I wonder what the athletic director and the presidents and boosters at LSU, when they heard that clip today,
Oh, I'm sure.
were like,
I
what
said.
are you doing?
Oh, I think they know what it is. I think it's basically saying you need to put some good save face, and you need to
It's a
say
company
this,
line.
and you need a company line, and then at the same time, it's a wake up call to all your donors to say I need more.
Yeah.
I need more.
We don't buy
That's
players
not saying
because
I
you
won't-
guys didn't buy players.
Exactly.
Did he
That's
say
what
it in a
said.
Cajun accent? That's the real question.
And he danced really
With the
well.
yeah, he didn't dance with the reporter either. I didn't see that. So,
Still, though, you can easily use that against them.
Oh, absolutely.
but Brian Kelly's the easiest person to troll in the world. He's such a scumbag, and I don't know. He must. The fact that he is such a scumbag completely undermines that entire statement. Because
Yes.
obviously he's
Everyone
paying players to go
knows.
play for him.
Everyone
because he's
knows.
such a piece of crap.
Yeah, everybody knows who you are and what you've done and what you're willing to do. And
He's
what
throwing
school you're
players under
at.
the bus after losing games.
That would have worked.
He wanted to
Notre
execute
Dame.
him. Remember that quote?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he would
Yeah,
execute
or
it.
maybe go execute him. Well, you already executed one person. May as well do it. May as well do the
He-
players.
If he were at Notre Dame, that would have carried currency. The people would have said, okay, but that's not going to work at LSU. No one's going to. We see through it, man.
It's an eye roll.
It's not even close. Well, we're going to play LSU. We're going to play a lot of really good teams. In fact, OU's strength of schedule came out in a different, and I like it, very good mathematical expected value sense. Based on odds and number of wins our opponents are supposed to have, they ranked everybody in the SEC, and we were the toughest schedule. 70, if I remember right. Our opponents have an expected number of wins of 70 games.
Over the next 2 seasons? Or
No,
over just this
over
season?
just
No,
this
just this
season.
season.
Just this
Oh,
season.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
and
sorry,
then
obviously.
and Texas is down like at 42 or something
43, I think.
ridiculous
Yeah.
near the bottom of the list.
SEC really hooked us up.
They
On the scheduling.
They did a
Oh, and by the way, we have to
ugly.
play the same schedule next year.
Yeah.
After the SEC told us that they were going to flip it.
Oh, and by the way, we've got 8 games coming off a bye week for the other team.
That's the most.
How does that happen?
That's the most under the radar stat of unbelievable. Has that ever happened? Where you're playing a team 8 times? You're playing
And,
teams that
and
8
Jay's
times.
the
have
one
a-
that gave us that. I didn't look it up.
I didn't look it up, so I'm trusting.
Going
Jay
off
on
of
that.
Jay, but I don't see how that's possible because there's literally only 8 conference games. So how can it be every single conference game we're coming off an opponent's bye week? That can't be right.
Well, we'll have to double check and fact check Jay on that. But
I guess Maine could technically be coming off a bye week.
Maine could. I mean, I guess theoretically anybody could. I mean,
outside of the first
One of the
3 weeks,
one of the non-conferences could.
yeah, technically.
They
I think you
could.
can start having
But that
bye
would be
weeks as
SEC
early as
scheduling,
week
though.
3. You can have bye weeks as early as week 3, I think.
Well, we need to look, but if it's truly 8 or anywhere even close, that's. I mean, everyone thinks a bye week's really good. Now maybe it's not. Maybe it's distracting. Maybe you're focusing on recruiting and you're not preparing for the Sooners. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's good because they don't get to play just anybody. They're playing OU, and so it's one thing to have a bye week and then your opponent is Vanderbilt, and you say, well, we definitely can take this week off and recruit. We don't have to prepare 2 weeks for Vanderbilt, but we do for Oklahoma.
Who's our bye week before?
Texas?
Is it?
Is it before Texas?
Where did you get that stat about 8, Jay?
We're going to fact check you on that.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It was a week or two ago. I sent it to you guys. I can
Were
check
you?
it.
I think it was like
were
3
you
days ago.
within your wits?
Were you in
Am
your
I
right
ever?
mind?
Well,
Because we only have 8 conference games. So
Had you
you're
had enough to drink?
essentially telling us that every SEC opponent gets a bye week before us.
You keep talking amongst yourselves. I will check
You
the
check it out.
Twitterverse.
check it out.
But like I said, even if it's 6.
Yeah, even if it's 6, it's way too many.
It's a lot. No, it's at least 6. I guarantee.
Well,
it's
you
at
said
least
8,
Would
so
you
we're
just fact check
I am-
yourself
I
and
am
not
fact
try to
checking.
backtrack on your statement?
I read left to right, top to bottom. Okay. Let me-
All right, you keep doing it. So that's a headwind for OU.
But yeah, the expected win total for your opponent, we're at the top of the
at
list.
the top of the list.
And then, as Connor said, 2025, we're playing the same rotation of teams, which
Right.
we're all still angry about because
Yeah.
they told us
We'd play
essentially
everybody.
we would play everybody over the 2 years. We'd flip the schedule with Texas, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's not happening now.
Well, and most likely, whatever the new evolution is, and there could be new teams in the league, and I give them a buy on that as well, but you're not going to flip it to the degree that you're at the bottom of that list of strength of schedule. You're going to have a mix and match, depending on how they pot it or whatever they do. You're going to be in a position where your strength of schedule is what you would expect is somewhere in the mid-range, which is tough.
Yeah, you're not going to get a Vandy,
You're not going to get an
Kentucky,
easy
South
schedule.
Carolina.
But also-
unless things just break and those
And
teams are
it happens,
bad.
right?
But also, what I don't like is, so now they've decided the next 2 seasons, so that's through 25. What if the college football world blows up and becomes the 2 or 3 super conference that we've talked about before? And then when they come out with that 26 schedule, what if there's still like 4 SEC teams that we don't end up playing
Right.
that season because whatever
Right.
pod system they end up doing or whatever divisions they end up becoming,
Yeah. And we're waiting forever.
and we're
to
we're not
play
playing Florida. We're not
Florida,
playing
yeah.
Georgia. We're not, and that's kind of that's crappy for the fans.
It is bad.
To have to go maybe it ends up being 3 years of being in the SEC before you get to face Mississippi State or Vandy
Yeah,
or
that-
Florida. I mean,
That's a real negative, and a negative
when they could have just done what they said originally and flipped the schedule with Texas for next
to
season.
guarantee everybody got to play them.
Yeah,
To go,
it would have made way more sense.
to me, it would have made a lot more sense. Another thing that I'm going to say is crappy for the fans, but there's pros and cons. Is they moved OU's first game to be on the Friday night. So, what do you guys think about that?
I'm pretty annoyed about it, to be honest. I'm and again, this is just the nostalgia in me as well coming out, where it's like that first college football Saturday with OU winding up and getting ready to go. It's just, I don't know, it's something that I like looking forward to. Friday also just presents a ton of logistical things that you got to work through. And I'm privileged enough where it's not hard for me to get off work. It's not hard for me to make a game because I live in Norman and I have a job
White
where
privilege.
I'm lucky enough where PTO is not hard to just get kind of on a flexible basis.
Right.
But for other people, I think it's pretty detrimental.
Well,
And
that's my
you
massage day,
Yeah,
and
Steve,
that
you
was
brought up a lot of
pretty
the.
We all love the Friday spring game, and
Yes.
talked about how that would be a new cool
But
thing to
I
do.
didn't have to go to that,
But that's a spring game.
and it's a spring
But
game.
you don't have to go to
and
any
it's
game.
low stakes.
So-
I don't. No.
so
well,
from the
so
the-
here-
within
here's
this
my
group, yeah,
perspective.
Okay,
I
give me
do.
give me the
My
give me the
perspective
pros.
is the TV networks got with the SEC and picked the games that they were going to have the time slots, and OU fell into the 11 o'clock time slot. That and Joe C.
You're
essentially
you're
he-
presuming. This
he
is
came-
assumption.
what he said in his statement about moving the game to Friday, essentially without saying it, was that we were only getting the 11 o'clock slot on Saturday.
Without saying it, he didn't say that.
He didn't say it, but it was 100%. You could read
Implied.
between
It
the
was
lines.
100% something that you
100%
inferred
read between
from this.
read
Yes.
between the lines that we were getting the 11 o'clock slot, and so they came to the table and said, "How about we move the game to Friday night?" OU says this, and we get the nationally televised game. We're the only game on that Friday night, other than high school games,
Right.
and we'll be the showcase. It'll be the first game in the new conference, even though it's an out-of-conference opponent. But the whole nation can see OU on Friday night without any other distractions of other college football games going on, and we're not subjecting our fans to this stupid-ass 11 o'clock time slot that we're sick of.
Well, I'll definitely recognize the pros that you lay out with or without the apologizing story of how it may have come to be. And it's a very plausible story of how it may have come to be. Something happened that we looked at this as an opportunity for us. Definitely so. And I don't dispute it's better for OU that it's on national TV. It's a spotlight game. You're the only one on. I always like to tease teams that are on Friday because that's when high schools play.
That's
But it
Big
is
12,
the
yeah, it's Big
first,
12.
It is the first game of the season. There's an element to that. I think of it as two things. That one, it's really good for OU. It's not so good for OU fans. Logistics are tough. You got fans coming in from all over. Their reservations get messed up. Their work schedules get messed up. They may not be. I mean, most Airbnbs are going to have to be generous.
They also
to
gave
shift you.
7 months notice on this, so it wasn't an out of the blue.
I bet
in-
all of
in
those
July
Airbnbs
saying, "Oh, by the way, we're moving this game."
I
a day
bet all
ahead
those
of time."
reservations were done. I've tried to book reservations for LSU, and it's more than 7 months out, and those are all taken. So if people were
Thanksgiving
doing it,
weekend, yeah.
they were taking up those spots, and I don't think they're going to be able to get out of that. If they're going to do it, they're going to have to buy another night's hotel and change their schedule. And like I said, for some of us, we can get time off. I had to take an extra day of vacation that I wasn't intending to take.
I'll be working that day.
For taking a vacation day for a home game, it's kind of perverse. Like I said, that's my massage day. That's a day that they usually have for me. It's me time. But seriously, that's a difficulty. The atmosphere won't be the same. I think the atmosphere will be a little bit. Not that we need an atmosphere to win that game, but you want a good start to everything. So I don't think it's without pros. I don't think it's without cons. It's something that I don't want to see become a norm. Although I did really like it. When was it? 3 years ago that we moved the game to
2019.
Sunday?
2019.
And that was,
Against
and of course,
Houston.
that's Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, one could argue it's the same thing, except it's not a work day. So it was nice to be a highlight game for
Yeah.
that day. The one pro is, and we talked about this earlier, that you didn't mention, Connor, you'd mentioned before, is that it is nice to get OU's game in and then done, and we get to really enjoy Saturday.
Yeah, I haven't even looked. I haven't even
fun
looked at the
day.
slate, but I mean, there's good.
Oh, there's always a lot of
There's going to
good
be a few
matchups.
good slate.
Well, obviously
Yeah.
the slate
Few
was
games
good
on the
enough
slate.
that they would have had to put us at 11 o'clock.
Well, I mean,
According
we
to
played
what you
Temple.
thought.
We
You
played
don't know
Temple.
that.
Like we played Temple. It would not have shocked me, and like, I'm sure we would have had the cliche eye roll and comment. We played Temple at 11 o'clock to open up the season. I'm not going to be completely shocked.
So you
Or
would
regardless
or
if
it
it
could
So
have
would
been
you
a night
rather
game.
have
It could have been a
for
night game. It
the-
could have been a
for the
pay-per-view
quote
game.
unquote fans availability, you'd have rather had an 11 a.m. on ESPN Plus than Friday night on ESPN?
Not necessarily.
I'm not.
No, I'm asking.
No, not necessarily.
If you
When
gave
you weigh the
me-
pros and cons, the
if
pros
you
outweigh
say
the cons.
if you say that's what it's going to be,
Let's say that's what it would have been.
I'd probably take the night game.
I would take the night game, but
I'd feel bad for other people.
I feel bad for a lot of people who that doesn't work out for.
I think, and maybe that's
works out for
the
me.
key of the grievance is people do plan. I plan my fall around OU football.
Yeah, you guys have calendars.
Other people plan their fall around OU football. A day off here and a day off there completely foils a lot of what I'm trying to do.
Do you not know
Because
that OU
of-
plays football in the fall?
I know that OU plays football in the fall on Saturday.
Yeah,
On Saturday, I do for sure.
especially at home.
Yeah.
Because I already got a lot of days dedicated to making those away games.
Right.
And this becomes an away game in a sense.
I mean, this is only a 16-hour difference from when the kickoff would have been. 7 o'clock Friday instead of 11 o'clock on Saturday. That's 16 hours. It's not that hard to plan.
What, 16 hours?
It's not that hard to plan around.
I'll go into work tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Okay, for me,
it's only
for
12
me,
hours.
With it being Labor Day weekend, I don't have a problem with it. First game of the season, Labor Day weekend. If this was the fifth week of the season, completely unacceptable to throw it randomly onto a Friday night. There was enough time to prepare, enough time to change your plans. For all the people that like to celebrate Labor Day weekend but have to wait because of the OU football game, and so it's a shortened weekend, I think it's great for them. They get a full extra day.
Yeah, we may get some fans who would
the lake
otherwise
people.
be hitting the
The
lake.
lake people,
Yeah. They get to both go to the game and go to the lake.
And honestly, there's probably going to be a significant amount of ESPN pub for OU in Texas anyways, preseason. And there's going to be a bunch of eyeballs that don't normally watch OU that will be watching Friday night.
Which could be really good. Here's another pro. We need, with our strength of schedule and everything else, we're going to need momentum to catch early. We're going to need some really good performances early to catapult us to that national spotlight, in the talk. Everybody's excited about it. Definitely a team. We have a great chance of being 4-0 and 3-0 for sure. 3-0 is like we'll be really disappointed if we're not 3-0. And so it's not just 3-0, it's 3-0 that people saw. Because, I mean, think how many times the only reason you knew Alabama was good was because they're Alabama. Because you didn't see it down that they played. And
Right.
everyone's going to get to see this.
For us, traditionally, you see Alabama play LSU, you see Alabama play Georgia or
They don't ever play
Florida.
Georgia.
Yeah, right.
But you know what I mean? Like that's,
yeah. But not
normally
those
because
early season
We
games.
have our own games going.
Unless
over
they play
there,
the
this,
kickoff
that.
game, which they've done a lot of times.
Right.
Then they go into by the way, Alabama won 56-0.
And then, selfishly, for just as a football fan in general, we've got 3 days after our game of
To
just
enjoy
straight
it.
football.
Oh, it's going to be insane. It's going to be awesome. That's going to be super fun. So
I do feel for the fans that I've heard some of the blowback was, my kid's in high school. He's on the high school football team. I'm not going to miss his game to go to an OU game.
I wouldn't miss my
Or
kids' game either.
my daughter's in the band or the cheerleader or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're going to give up their OU tickets for that game because they're going to go watch their
Can
kid
the high schools not ship
do something in high
today?
school. That's what I was thinking.
I doubt
Why couldn't
it.
the
I
high
don't
schools
think
play
they'll do
Thursday
that.
night games?
I don't think they'll do that. Their schedules are set too. That's logistical nightmare.
I don't think it is.
I
high
think
school football
I
game?
think
To
that
move it a day?
to move it a day, I don't think they do that.
How's it
You're gonna call the
They're
full
not-
concession stand people? and
if
the-
more?
For what? Because some of them are OU fans. I don't think that's going to happen. They're not good. There won't be a single game that gets moved. I don't see them moving one single.
The only games that they would move
would be Norman.
would be
High.
Norman, and that's it. And that's because of traffic and logistical problems.
Right.
Of things going on in Norman. That'd be the only reason.
I
That's
can
gonna
see
be
some
a
of the
fun- that's
I
gonna
can
be a
see some
fun
of the
rush
bigger
hour,
schools
isn't
like
it?
Yeah,
Carl
so we're gonna
Albert's
hear it like
playing
1
on Thursday,
Yeah.
or Westmore, whoever that had the home game that week, could move their game to Friday or to Thursday.
It'd be interesting to hear if anybody does that. I would be shocked.
I'd be
if
interested
anybody
to see a loud contingent of people wanting to do that at the high
Right.
school level.
moves. Right.
Like
I
you
can
said,
see
like
the
I think there's
pushback,
a pocket of people who are like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's move it because I do want to go to this game.
not the decision maker.
Such as- but-
What's the downside? I mean, having 6 or 7 months to rearrange this for a high school.
What about all the?
How much harder is it to move
They
the
don't
game
care.
a day?
They don't care.
think that's the same weekend as More War.
What about
usually.
the four? What
Think
about
about
the four
moving
Carl
More
Albert,
War to a Thursday.
What about the four
Doesn't sound that
Carl
big a deal
Albert
to me.
commits
It is.
that were going to be on the sideline for that game?
What? Yeah. what
That's
about it?
negative. That's a
It's a
negative.
negative.
I don't think they're going to move that game for them.
See you at Tulane at 11 a.m. on next Saturday.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to move. I wouldn't imagine they'd move it at all. If nothing else, because they don't care, and the stakeholders don't care. They're not going to look at it that way. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I'll try to talk to a school official and see what he says.
Yeah, see if you
Yeah,
can,
please do.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
great. That'd be
yeah.
good. That'd be great.
You have an in.
Yeah.
Have an in with the superintendent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you
of a
should.
major school district.
I bet it hasn't even once been talked about.
Yeah,
You don't think they've even thought
I
about
don't
it?
even think
I
they've
bet
thought
they've
about
not
it.
even thought about it.
Interesting. I'd be surprised if the athletic director for school system hasn't considered moving the game up a day?
Find out. Right,
Because what's
right
involved?
Right out of the bushes.
Well, also you have to look at. You haven't thought about
The school system
high
owns the
school
stadium they're
attendance.
playing in.
What about high school attendance Friday night?
Well, I know, but I don't think they're going to care. They don't think about that kind of stuff. They're more apt to cancel fans in the stands.
No, they're
that
not.
makes
they're
their
not,
life easier.
They're
They
not
don't
banking
care.
on a gate. They're not
They don't
banking
care.
on a profit from the gate.
They're like,
in
oh,
high school game.
I
Well,
bet they like the ticket sales. For
I guarantee you they like it, but I also
Again,
think
the
they
decision makers don't care.
they deal with a lot more things that go on that prevent attendance than what OU deals with, to depend on ticket sales and concessions, etc. I'm not saying they don't like it, but 15% dip in concession profits because
Yeah,
OU's
but
playing is
They're
not
going to say
gonna-
that's good,
it's
that
not-
we don't have
What
to
if it's-
plan
Yeah.
as
what if
much.
it's a
It's like we don't have to
90%?
buy as much.
I don't think
There's no way.
no one's doing that math. They're not for-profit businesses. They don't care.
Yeah, and they probably don't even have the analysis of
Yeah, they don't know.
how
they
much
got a bunch of volunteers
they're
that,
estimating they're going to make.
that won't even know there's an OU game going on. If anybody did it, it'd be Norman. I would be
Maybe
shocked
more.
if anyone else. And if you look at
Maybe
the
more.
like Tulsa schools and other places where we're thinking about recruits and they want to be on the sidelines, it's just not going to happen.
Second week of the season in high school too is very often rivalry week as well. Like
That's
you
right.
have big matchups, especially in the Tulsa area. More wars oftentimes second
But
week
again,
of the
that
season.
doesn't change the fact that moving it a day, the rivalry would still happen.
I just don't.
The
think
only
they're
difference
gonna
is the
move it.
kids have to go to school the next day. That's the only difference.
That's a pretty big difference to a lot of them. I don't know.
For a high school kid, you
Find
know, that
out.
goes to bed before 10 o'clock.
Find out. I bet they don't do it.
Instagram, TikTok, anyway.
Well, that TikTok educates. I don't know. I doubt that they'll do it, but maybe I'm
after
wrong.
January.
If I was a parent who didn't care about OU, and you told me that you were moving Union versus Jinx from
From
Friday to
Friday to
Thursday
Thursday.
because of the OU game,
I'd be
I would
mad.
be outraged.
I wouldn't be at all.
Well, you're
Playing
looking.
on lots of things,
Who cares?
It's a day.
but they're not going to.
You're not pushing it back a week because of it.
You're not canceling the game.
We're
or
not
something.
saying you're not right that they should consider it. We're saying they're not going to. They're just
They're not going to
gonna-
consider it.
They're not going
They
to
won't
consider
consider it.
Okay.
They won't consider
and
it.
they're not going to move them. I would say they're not going to move them. I'll tell you another group who I think is probably.
Is this a breakfast bet?
It's a rat, bro. There's
this
a
a
rat.
break-
on
is
your
this our
fence.
first-
Is it really a rat?
Is
Yes.
this our
It's a
2024
big
breakfast
rat.
bet?
Wow. That
Has the superintendent from a major school district
no,
Consider-
No,
No,
consider
no,
it subjective.
No,
Consider it
it's totally
subjective.
subjective. He's going to get somebody.
Yeah, Lucas puts the
on
thought in
the
his head.
stage.
And
You're
you go, oh,
just
you're
afraid
right.
you're
Actually, we
gonna
have
lose.
thought about that. No, if more than one game is moved, I don't even think one game's going to be moved. If more than one game is moved, I'll buy breakfast. I'll buy breakfast at some point this season.
But it has to be proven that they moved it for
because
this.
because of this
Because
reason.
of this game.
Because of
Yeah.
this reason.
Yeah, not
they will have to
weather,
release a
not
statement
something
saying,
else.
due to the OU football game being moved to Friday, August 31st.
I'll tell you another group that's harmed by this, I think, on net would be the local merchants. I bet they're not thrilled about this.
I would agree with that.
I bet that they.
Oh, Campus
this
Corner
is
spot, I'd be
negative.
pissed.
Yeah.
I'm not getting- I'm
in
expecting
fact,
people
I bet
all
they'd
day.
rather have an 11 a.m. game
I
than
don't know.
a night game on Friday.
They would because they get all the
Is it a
business
night
after the
game
11
on-
a.m. games.
11 a.m.?
yeah.
11 a.m. on a Saturday versus a night game on a Friday? Absolutely.
Because
You're
no
getting
one's coming
business
down.
all after the
Probably a
game.
push.
It's also going
I
to
don't
depend
think
on
it's a push.
temperature.
There's no way.
If that 11 a.m. game was going to be 95 degrees, people go to the games and they go home immediately after. Nobody hangs out on campus. Well, I say nobody, but
Yeah, less.
the hangout at 2:30 or 3 o'clock or whatever the time the game's
Yeah.
over after a game that's 95 degrees is
Right.
very small.
The temperature at 4 o'clock on Friday is not going to be much different than 3
I'm
2
just saying they're
o'clock
not
on
You're going to have a lot of
Saturday.
people
saying
who
that
say,
they're
I'm
not gonna
not
be- But that's
fighting
free.
traffic to
Yeah,
go down.
I'm saying they're not
and
going to
do
be
it.
missing out on post-game sales if the temperature's high
I bet their net sales are lower.
on Saturday.
Even comparing an 11 a.m., and we're assuming an 11, even comparing an 11 a.m.
Not a-
to the Friday night game, I think that the sales would be lower, and they definitely would be lower any other time. No one would dispute a
Are
night
there-
game on Saturday is better than a night
I don't
game
have
on
the kind of
Friday.
job where you just take days off. So
You have all the days off.
yeah, right.
we see.
I haven't had a day
pictures.
off in 6 weeks.
Here I am at the golf course.
Tell me about your 9 weeks of vacation you're taking this summer to go watch Pearl Jam.
I
Just
wish.
working for 3 hours and
I would
then having the rest
I
of
would
the
have been
day
in
off,
Vancouver,
not counting Saturday
Vancouver last
off.
weekend.
That's
Anyway,
what you're counting.
so I don't have the type of job where I can just take days off like you're using PTO, that kind of thing. How many people regardless of the OU situation, took that Friday off anyway, so they would have a 4-day Labor Day weekend.
I don't know.
Because I do have military friends
There'll
that,
be a good portion.
I
that do
put
stuff
in-
like that, or
I
people that work
put
at
in
Tinker.
that day or the next day it was
Yeah.
announced. I think it was that day. It was about 2 hours after.
Oh, I
heard.
was right away.
I put it in because
I mean, I have
know at
friends
my
that work at
job,
Tinker that
Everybody else is putting in for Friday.
they get
off.
Exactly.
they get all the holidays
There's
off.
gonna be-
and so
but
there's
they'll
going to be
still
somebody
use,
who can't get it.
There's gonna be nobody having surgery the Friday of. The
They'll still use one vacation day like the Friday or Tuesday to have a 4-day weekend, just because it's like a mini holiday.
Right.
for them.
Sure, there'll be some people
So,
that
I
do
mean-
that, but a lot of people are not in that position. A lot of people, I don't know. It can be a positive. You're just trying to
Can't worry about the
mitigate what a
poors.
negative it is.
No, it can't work out for the poors.
All
No,
that
truly.
matter are the people in the suites. The people in the suites matter, and that's it. So
Those people don't have jobs. They're rich.
I got 2 questions for you guys because this is good controversy. Let's see if we can keep this going. 2024. Is this the year the Deion Sanders experiment gets fully exposed as a fraud?
Yes. Simple answer is yes.
Is it not already?
I mean, completely exposed. It's
No,
done.
I don't think it's been because it's not being publicly acknowledged that it's a
Oh, it's
complete.
the mood has changed on him. for
No,
sure.
I know, but what I'm saying is like at the end of the 4-8 season that they had last year, no one was saying
Iconic.
Fire him.
fire
Iconic
Deion.
4-8 season too. By the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 games were like the most watched football games in all of college.
The
football.
first 3 games, Colorado's going to college football playoff,
Right.
according to a lot of national
and
pundits.
they could beat 2019 LSU.
They could,
maybe.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I
don't
think
know if this. Go ahead.
I think it lives under a lot more scrutiny this year, and I don't think it worked. I don't think it's going to go well at all, and I think it does get fully exposed.
I think after this season, he loses his son and what's the other kid's
Maybe
name?
his other
Travis.
son, and Travis Hunter.
Travis
Hunter. Both those kids move on to the NFL, and then he's left completely bare covered.
Oh, he's gone.
for the next season. He either steps out or takes another job or whatever.
I think it's worse.
So
than
let's
that.
say they go 4-8 again, and then he loses 2 NFL players that are first or second rounders. Or whatever.
no, some
he
people
thinks
have- some
Shadur's
people
going to be a
have-
top 5 pick.
Some people, there was a mock draft that came out today. I don't remember what network or who it was. They had Shador going number 1 and Travis Hunter going number 2.
Dion says
They think they're the
Shadur's
first 2
number
off the
1
board.
That was the Boulder Gazette, I think. That
Yeah.
I think it. I think
They
it
were on a
gets
Rocky
exposed.
Mountain High.
Yeah.
Came up with that idea.
I don't know. I've been a doubter all along,
We all have.
and I don't know if we all have. There's
I
some
was-
people
No,
early
no.
on.
Initially, I thought there was a chance
Yeah.
he might just kill it.
Yeah.
He might get literally
And that goes back to
every portal
to the
person
Florida days.
that you could possibly get, and he
where was
truly
he?
builds an
Florida
elite
International?
portal.
No, Jackson State.
Jackson State, yeah, Jackson
Right?
State.
Like
Yeah,
no, I
in
thought there was
Alabama.
a chance that Dion being him and maybe Colorado ponying up the money, he might, because the portal was brand new, really too when he made that jump.
Right.
That he might just absolutely kill it.
If he gave an ounce about recruiting and getting into people's living rooms and actually selling a product that wasn't just money and glitz, I would be a little bit more prone to say that there's a chance to be successful. I don't even think there's not even a chance of, like,
Is Colorado?
it's going to reek of disappointment this year.
Is there another team? Is there another team more high profile than Colorado that thinks that his plan might work?
USC?
Yeah. Maybe USC. I don't know. I don't think the guy can find a job after this because I don't think he can coach. And that was one of my strongest criticisms all along. He can get these players.
He doesn't want to
If
coach.
he doesn't know how to coach,
He doesn't
and
want
can't
to.
get coaches.
We saw
it's
him
not
at the end
gonna
of last
matter.
season.
Yeah.
He's sitting there by himself on the sideline, not saying a word to anybody.
Yeah, just not knowing how
Completely
any of this
disengaged.
works.
Well, my initial scrutiny while he was at Jacksonville State was,
Jackson State.
Jackson State. He had elite Division I talent, like 5 guys, right, playing down a level, and they still didn't
Not
win.
A level. I mean, they were HBCU, so it's more than down a level.
Yeah, you're talking about
2-3 steps down.
Yeah.
you're talking about the number 1 player in the entire country chose to go there, and you still don't
you still couldn't win it all.
win it all.
Yeah.
Right. So that alone proves you don't have the chops to coach.
What is their schedule
Well,
this year?
they made the playoffs.
Yeah, but still, you have. We're talking about this is like a player. This is like a coach at Dibble getting like 5 transfers from Jinx.
Some Jinx, yeah.
Or Union.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, oh, we didn't win the playoffs this year. It's like, what do you mean you didn't win the playoffs this year?
Right.
Like,
It didn't matter.
We
who
have 3
those
girls playing on
other
the football
guys.
team.
It doesn't matter.
well,
Yeah.
we just lost 2. And
Right.
you have the top 5 players in the state of Oklahoma. You can't win your conference championship.
So here's their schedule. They open up against North Dakota State. Maybe a loss.
It's maybe a loss.
Yeah.
Maybe a loss. At Nebraska, loss. At Colorado State, probably a win. Baylor at home.
Well,
Toss
well,
up.
talk about sidetrack. What has happened to Baylor and Dave Aranda?
Dave Aranda's going to get fired. UCF away.
That's
probably
a
a
loss.
loss.
That's iffy. Yeah.
Kansas State at Colorado,
That's a
loss.
loss.
At Arizona, should be a loss.
Depending on how they.
Depending on how they
So it's
yeah.
still
they
the
shake
quarterback and receiver, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cincinnati at home, toss up.
Yeah.
Texas Tech in Lubbock, toss up.
It's probably a loss.
Utah at home, should be a
That's a
loss.
loss.
Oh, that's a loss.
At Kansas,
That's a
loss. Oklahoma State in Boulder,
Loss.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you give them like 3 wins?
Three
or 4?
yeah, 4 wins at most.
So they can go 4-8 again.
4-8.
Yeah.
5 and 7 is probably their ceiling.
Which is no. I mean, that's no improvement.
After what
a
he
secondary
after
conference.
what
Yeah.
he preached, what he's going to bring to this school and what he's going to bring to the program,
Louis.
massive disappointment.
Bringing
Well,
Louis.
and
Huh?
He's going to bring the Louis.
and the
It's Louis luggage.
and the assumption that a Big 12 minus OU and Texas is still a pushover, right?
Right.
Because it's still better than Pac-12.
Right. Oh, yes. Significantly better.
I don't know. Pac-12 was solid.
Well, last year was their only good year in a really
right.
long
I
time.
mean, Utah, Oregon were really
Yeah.
good.
Yes. Not
Still got
great.
Utah on the
USC was
schedule.
decent. I mean,
They're about as good as a Big 12 has been.
Arizona was pretty good.
They're about as good as a Big 12 with OU and Texas has been.
But it's not to
Yeah.
mention the dude is one of the most unprofessional people,
Right.
not only in the sport but just in general that I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
he'll turn off as many people as he turned on internally right away.
Yeah, and-
People are going to not put up with that stuff if it's not winning.
no. And if I'm a parent and I see that, I don't care. You can throw all the Louis Vuitton luggage at me that you want. I do not want my son going and
now,
playing for someone
ultimately,
like that.
he might have just played the absolute alpha dad role, and he took his kids, right? He took his kids from a lower division of football,
Right.
and he moved them into a major division of college football.
Getting them
And
high
they
in the
are
draft.
getting the limelight,
drafted.
and they're getting drafted, and he's done.
No.
Deion might just be like,
That would be the
he comes out and
most
says-
insane long game I've ever seen,
But
and I believe
think he
it,
might
that
have
it
done
could be
that,
the
though.
case.
Yeah, I do think there's a chance he might just come out and tell everybody that.
I think there's probably a 75%. There's probably a 75% chance that we do not see him back at Colorado going into next season. I mean, I really,
Oh, that's a strong. Yeah, I agree.
I really think
he
it's
doesn't
probably
have
around.
ties there. He doesn't. He's not from there.
I don't
He's
think
not
he
from-
likes it. I don't think he likes it there.
Yeah, there's no reason for him after his kids. And
No, if he were at a Florida school, that'd be a little different.
Yeah.
If he was at some place that was,
A&M,
I mean,
they
he's
were all
got-
talking about
he's
it.
got Warren Sapp coming out there, taking a D-line position coach.
It's got Phil Lodeholt coming out there. Took the offensive line coach
but
position.
these are just guys that played well in the NFL. These aren't proven coaches, you know.
Exactly.
And that's part of the whole
Exactly.
problem with the whole. It's so incomplete.
Well, he did such an amazing job last year of filling the sideline with faces
Oh yeah,
that it completely distracted from the product on the field.
right.
It was every celebrity gets a sideline pass. I don't care how crowded the sideline is. You want to pass, you get it. We might win, we might lose. More often than not, we're going to lose.
It's probably a good time.
And
Who was their first game that they won that was big?
Nebraska.
It was Nebraska. Was it?
TCU?
No, Kansas State.
Oh, TCU. They beat
Oh, yeah,
TCU
yeah.
on the opening
So
weekend.
that was the hype.
That was at TCU.
It got everything started. He's like, I told you we were going to win this.
Right.
Because
Right.
everybody doubted.
They're
him.
coming off a
you're
loss
coming
in the
off-
national championship.
Yes,
Right.
everybody doubted that, and then when he won that one game,
Yep.
that got him coverage for the whole season.
And
And
essentially.
everything else
A
was a nail
terrible
biter
Nebraska game.
after that.
Nebraska was terrible.
And they should. And
They
so
shouldn't have beat Colorado State.
they shouldn't have beat Colorado
Shouldn't
State.
have beat Arizona State.
And they shouldn't have beat Arizona State. And they should have been able to beat USC. and didn't. That finally caught up to him there. The publicity stunt and everything has just been phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
But to me, I'm a complete doubter, continue to be, and I think it gets exposed. I'll give you another one. Is this the year that Lincoln Riley gets exposed as a mediocre head coach?
I mean, I think it's already been proven he's a mediocre head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator.
Is this year where it's undeniable? And I'll go a step further. I don't want to get off necessarily from that topic, but I'm not sure he's a phenomenal offensive coordinator.
He's a phenomenal.
He is a phenomenal offensive coordinator.
I'm
if
not
that's
sure
his
he
only
is.
job to worry about.
So
Because he still has teams that put up 40 or 50 points a game.
Now,
He just can't get the defense
had
at
absolute
all.
dudes of dudes.
yes, he has
To run it.
when he's had dudes of dudes.
You can't take credit away from that.
I'm saying now, right now, I don't know if he's one of my top 5 offensive coordinators because I think the game's caught up to him, and I don't know if he
There's
knows
a
what
chance
to
of
do.
that.
I don't know if he has the personnel to do it now, and that's the thing. Because this, to your point,
Or the competition, and the competition is a lot
steeper,
stiffer.
Yeah. And I think to your point, this is going to have to be the year that he shows he can be a head coach,
Right.
Because
Right. Absolutely.
he does not have a guy
Yeah. Who can
that
bail
is
him
going to
out.
sit there and say, "Don't worry, coach, I got this. Put everyone on my shoulders, and I'm going to carry us forward,"
Yep.
like he has every single year that he's been a head coach.
Yeah, one way or
Baker,
another.
Except for Rattler.
Baker, Kyler, yeah, but even with Rattler, you still win a Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
In the COVID year, and then when Rattler doesn't work out the next year, you bring Caleb in. So you have Baker, Kyler, Jalen, Rattler in the COVID year that wins you a Big 12 title, Rattler who sucks, and you replace him with Caleb Williams, who goes and gets you one of the most iconic wins in OU Texas history, and then rolls with you to USC. Unless he's pulling some guru stuff like he might be able to do at quarterback, I don't think he will. They're going to be a lesser talented team.
Now, they brought in the UCLA defensive coordinator, is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
No.
Who's solid.
Yep.
So maybe their defense takes a step up from 100th to 80th, let's say. And then his offense goes from 10th to 25th. Maybe it's a net
Yeah.
positive or neutral.
I'm
Maybe,
excited to
maybe.
see
What
them.
would they go? Where'd they go last year?
They've also
7-5?
lost. They
Yeah.
have not. They have not. I've read a couple of different LA Times articles and stuff like that.
They're tired of him already.
Well, not just that, but the draw that they thought he was going to get through the portal, where
It hasn't
LA,
happened.
where USC, it has not happened. Now, his happened
The
periodically,
the recruiting
offensively.
hasn't happened.
right. Offensively, it has happened here and there.
Mm-hmm.
To no avail still defensively. Because even last year when they got Bear Alexander from Georgia, it wasn't some different. He's already left again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not even retaining guys they talked to come in to stay. And they're not some huge player in the defensive portal game right now.
Well, he also still has the same strength and conditioning coach.
Right.
Yes.
That is
The
awful.
same joke.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's USC's
Schedule.
schedule.
Yeah, that's how I wanted to go to that.
Okay, they open up. First game of the season.
We're going to need to watch it because we play on Friday.
Correct. This is Sunday game in Vegas against LSU. Game 1.
Okay. Loss.
Game number 2, Utah State at home. Should be a win.
Yeah, it should be a win.
Game number 3, at Michigan.
Loss.
Game number
That game got a lot easier, though.
Yeah.
That
Oh, it
game got a
definitely
lot easier.
And it's still going to be tough.
It's going to be tough
It's
just
going
to
to be
go
very
there.
physical.
It's going to be a physical game, but it got a lot easier than what
Well,
we
they've
thought it
got-
would be in November.
Sure.
For USC, the word physical is correct because it's coming their way. Game number 4, Wisconsin.
Should be a loss.
Game number 5, Minnesota. A scrappy team that you just got to watch
That
out.
could go either
Let's
way.
call that a win.
Okay. Penn State.
Loss.
Maryland at
Win.
Maryland.
Win,
Rutgers.
win,
Washington and Washington.
win.
What?
At Washington?
At Washington,
Washington.
they lost
Everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, they did lose a lot. It's a tough game. It's still a tough game.
Let's call it a win.
That could go either way.
Well, let's give that one a loss because we gave him the every other way.
Okay,
the
Nebraska and LA.
win. Loss.
UCLA and Rose Bowl.
Loss.
Notre Dame.
No, I'm going to say UCLA is a win. They lost Chip Kelly. I think
Okay.
they lost a lot.
Okay.
So what?
No,
Okay,
it's the defense
Okay.
coordinator.
maybe
Five,
7,
5 and 7.
6.
That's 5 and 7 is what
Yeah.
we just rattled off, and we were generous.
Yeah,
We were
So their
generous.
ceiling is 8-4.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like everything goes great,
everything goes
8-4.
perfect, 8-4, and not competing
but
for anything.
probably 6-6, 7-5.
And luckily though,
5 and 7 would make me just.
luckily
so happy.
for them, 3 of their final 4 games are in LA in the winter.
Right.
So that's
Big
they got
difference.
lucky there.
They got really lucky.
What they
because-
finish last year?
7 and 5.
7 and 5.
Because if you had put the Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State games at the end of the season in the cold,
Oh,
I'd give you
absolutely.
4 straight losses.
Now, with those, we were kind of fair to broke their direction in the could go either ways. Last year, they got by the skin of their teeth in games that they should have lost, could have lost, if they were
not
playing
Caleb.
against teams that were either later in the season or were just completely in a coma on decision making. They would have lost. Arizona. They should have lost Arizona. They should have lost to Colorado. Both of those games, competent coaching gets you a victory.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, people
Well,
freeze.
one of those coaches
in
just
that
beat
limelight.
us in the last game.
he did. By the end of the season, so they would have beaten them. Had they
Is
played
Jed
later.
Fish? Is he still there?
No, he went to
Went to Washington.
Went to Washington.
Yeah.
That's why I was.
So that's why Washington might be a loss.
Right.
Yeah. And so
But now, who did USC play in the bowl game?
they won. They beat.
Right, they won. But my
The
point
quarterback
was
played really good.
their quarterback threw 6 touchdowns, if I
Yep.
remember right.
Right.
And people were like, "Holy cow, they're loaded for next season
remember
with
who they
this
played.
quarterback."
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Now
at all.
they didn't play anybody good. Was it like was it
Look it up.
Cincinnati or somebody? Did they go to a bowl game? It was somebody not very good. Obviously, they're 7-5.
You looking at it?
But the kid threw either 6 or 7 touchdowns.
No, he
It
threw
was-
a bunch.
He
It
balled
was
out. He balled
crazy.
out. He balled out.
So maybe that kid is the next Lincoln
I don't
Riley
think so.
awesome quarterback.
I don't think so.
They
Maybe.
they beat Louisville, a ranked Louisville in the Holiday Bowl,
And what was the final score?
42-28.
Yeah. So, and I remember that. That was a
So it was like
surprising
6 touchdowns.
performance. He came in.
Out of nowhere.
Out of
Because
nowhere.
it wasn't the guy. It wasn't Malachi Nelson.
No, exactly.
Who everybody was the heir apparent.
Yeah, he
because-
left.
Who went to Boise?
Yeah, he
Somehow a
leaves.
5-star quarterback.
But he didn't play in that game. It was their
No.
third string quarterback.
Is this third
They're playing
string a
that game.
recruit or is he a transfer?
I think he's a recruiter.
I think
Well, he
he's a-
can't be good. Lincoln Riley can't have good recruits. He
Right.
only has
Just
good
like
transfers.
Malachi Nelson.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's going to be a very exciting football season to see some of these
Yeah,
things come to
I
fruition.
still think, as just an offensive coordinator, he's a top 5 offensive coordinator.
That's probably true.
I do
He's top 3 to me.
agree with you, though. He does have a hard time evaluating high school quarterbacks.
He has a hard time adapting to the game as it is. And let's keep in mind, as great as I think we were, and
He
will
picked Brock
die
Vandegrift
absolutely
over Caleb Williams.
Well, as great as we were, and I'll die on the hill of how great our offenses were back in those years of Baker and Kyler, he got bailed out by phenomenal quarterback play in a weak league. And every time he played tough talent, he either struggled or lost. And that's true throughout his entire head coaching career. And it's only gotten worse. We're going to see rubber meeting road potentially in the Big Ten in those games when it's physical. And you rattled off teams that are big and physical, but we don't think they're elite. I mean, Wisconsin, they're not elite.
No.
Only outside of Madison, nobody believes they're elite.
No, not
So-
elite, but it's a different. It's a different.
No, it's going to be
style
really
of
tough,
game.
but it's not. It's not Georgia.
Yeah.
You know, and so if they're going to go, they're not playing OU schedule, and so we're going to see them. I think really suffer. I'm going to say this is he's clearly mediocre. The fans are going to turn on him more than they have. The local media has already turned. The national media is going to start turning. He's going to be a guy who's on an island.
He'll be the hot seat guy
and,
for sure.
and they're going to be in a tough position because what are they going to do?
He
They're going
is-
to eat that contract?
Even going over that schedule, he is going to have one thing in his favor, and that is his style of offense outside
unique.
of Ohio State. Nobody else in the Big Ten plays any kind of offense like that. So
true.
the defenses in that league are going to have a really tough time stopping his offense.
Right.
And the offenses in that league, outside of being physical, aren't very good.
No.
How many Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana,
That's a good
Maryland.
point. That's a good
How
point.
bad are all those
But
offenses
again-
for decades?
But again, they're
Iowa didn't get 150 yards of offense.
Absolutely true.
How many times? But their defense is really good. So how
Yeah.
many games will he win?
yes.
35 to 21
Maybe.
because those
Maybe.
offenses are so bad.
Here's how many he won't, because those coaches are competent, and they know what they have to do, and they'll just possess the ball, hold the ball, and grind them down. And I don't
Which
think
is what we all knew.
we
they were
all
gonna
knew,
do when
and
he
the
was
only
on.
teams who didn't know it were the Pac-12 teams who play that style of offense and don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
These teams, like, not only do we know how to do it, that's all we know how to do.
We know we can't score.
yeah, so we're
So
not giving you the
we're
ball.
not going to let you have the ball.
So
and they will run clock down like
yeah,
a la West Virginia did against us.
Yep.
And then, I mean,
Yeah, Lincoln.
Kansas State.
Lincoln was exposed that season. Teams did
figure it out. Yeah.
and as good as
That's the bread and butter in the Big Ten.
Chris
as
Kleiman
good
was
as
amazing
this quarterback may be, he's not going to have the escapability of a Caleb Williams. And we bitch about and worry about our offensive line. They got a lot bigger worries about their offensive line.
Yeah.
They may just live in the backfield of the USC offense. I don't know. I just am loving it. I'm here to
I'm here to hate watch again.
I'm here for the hate watch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll be back with some episodes coming up with maybe some special guests. I got some ideas up my sleeve. We've got the summer rolling in, and I'm just excited. I wish it was fall already. Boomer.
Sooner.